This is News Today. The New Patriotic Party this morning held a media forum to assess President John Mahama's first year in office. It follows the president's interaction with journalists last week, which coincided with the first year of his investiture. Let's listen to what some party members have said already.
The fiscal deficit for 2013 is still very high, currently projected at 10.2% of GDP, but likely to exceed 11% of GDP when all the final figures are in. Simply put, ladies and gentlemen, in 2013, government lived beyond its means by an additional 9 billion cedis. In an attempt to improve the fiscal situation, the NDC Social Democratic-led government in 2013, you recall, removed the subsidies on petroleum prices, resulting in an increase in pump prices of all petroleum products and a consequent increase in transportation costs. Is this a manifestation of a better Ghana agenda? Again in 2013, fees and levies were increased by over 200%. And for those of you that might remember, Kolebu Teaching Hospital, in haste to implement this policy, started charging higher fees even before it became lawful. This is clearly a clear manifestation of the difficulties that they faced and that all service providers faced in 2013. Fellow Ghanaians, delays in the payment of statutory funds have become a regular feature of the economic management strategy of the NDC-led government since 2009. The year 23 was no exception. There were further accumulation of arrears in these District Assembly Common Fund amounting to 450 million cedis. Get Fund, 240 million cedis. National Health Insurance Fund, 151 million cedis. And government contributions for workers' SNIT payments, 695 million cedis. Together, these amount to 1.5 billion cedis. This does not include arrears owed to road contractors, salary arrears owed to public workers, arrears owed to suppliers of goods and services, to government agencies, including the security services and secondary institutions, as well as caterers for the school feeding program. Is this really a manifestation of the Better Ghana agenda?
Some concerned New Patriotic Party members in the Bongo constituency of the Upper East region won their recent polling station and constituency executive elections to be ruled as null and void because the elections were conducted without the supervision of the Electoral Commission. Upper East correspondent Albert Suri reports.
The group at a press conference in Bongo on Tuesday said a court injunction on the conduct of the elections was blatantly ignored and laid down electoral procedures were not followed during the elections. The concerned New Patriotic Party members in the Bongo constituency fear that the NPP could lose the 2016 general elections in the Bongo constituency if the current executive is maintained. They say they will advise themselves if all outstanding issues regarding the recent polling station and Bongo constituency executive elections are not addressed, and want the regional and national executives of the party to try and resolve them. Richard Ankama is spokesperson for the group.
Yes, during the election, completely the guidelines that were laid down were just ignored. None of them adhered to the guidelines in conducting the election. Example, opening of nomination, constituting the election committee at the constituency level. The chairman of the Council of Elders is not aware. He is supposed to chair the election committee. Then you take people who were appointed by the executives to pose themselves as election committee members. The chairman, Joe Abagana, was made the chairman of election committee. How was he picked?
There are two fingers that you are pointing at. Mahmoud, who is now.
Reports reaching Joynews indicates there has been a gas explosion at Besiase Fodwa near Nkoko in the eastern region. Joining me for an update over the telephone is DO2 George Enim Frimpong, his municipal fire officer in Nkoko. Hello, DO2.
Hello.
Thanks for joining us on News Today. But what exactly happened?
Okay, so around 4:30 a.m. this morning, a call was received at our station that there had been an accident involving gas tanker at a village called Fodwa. And we proceeded to the place, and when we got there, there was a leakage of the gas. So we made an announcement in the town that nobody should set fire until they are told to do so. But unfortunately, about 500 meters away from the tanker, there was an explosion down there, and it spread towards the tanker until the tanker too got involved in the fire. And in a moment, about 10 buildings were on fire. So we had to rise and then rescue people, because at that time people were still asleep. So we went there to rescue the people and at the same time fighting the fire. So we quickly arranged for assistance from Konongo and then Empraeso Fire Station to help us. So that was what happened.
Did we record any casualties or fatalities?
The casualty, we had 28 casualties. Yeah, 28 casualties. And unfortunately, a 5-month-old baby got burnt in the fire. And the others, the injuries were very serious. Very serious.
You said a 5-month-old baby. Was she also a casualty, or she died?
Yeah, that one died. She died, and then in fact, the way it got burnt, if you are not told that there was a baby in the room, you can't identify it.
So the people with the injuries, where are they now?
At the moment, we have transferred all of the people from Praso Clinic to Nkoko Roman Hospital, and they are preparing some of them to be referred to our Kompanochi Hospital.
This baby has been identified by her parents, I suppose.
Yeah, the parent is the female, or the woman whose baby got burnt. She's also burnt about 90%. So
I see.
She's not told that the baby is burnt or is dead.
I see.
Yeah.
And we know why there was an explosion, do we?
No, the tanker is still lying down. There wasn't any explosion because we first sprayed our chemical on the box. So there's no explosion. And as I speak to you now, we've arranged for a towing car to come and then tow the car from where it is now.
You say there was no explosion?
There wasn't explosion.
What caused the fire then?
What happened was that when we asked them not to set fire, unfortunately, somebody somewhere lighted a naked fire, and so about 500 meters away from the tanker, then we heard an explosion from that end.
From that end?
Fire started.
I
see.
see.
The fire started.
I see.
But the vehicle itself is there without no explosion.
I see. DO2 will leave it here for now. Thank you very much.
So you are welcome.
Let's move on to some other stories. The National Coordinator of the Ghana Youth Employment and Entrepreneurial Development Agency, Kobe Champon, says the termination of service contracts with RLG and others will give JIDA the chance to start afresh. Speaking to Bright Nananfo On today's big story, Kobe Champon said the Attorney General's Department is already in talks with the providers to ensure a refund to the states the monies wrongfully paid. The Ministry of Youth and Sports on Tuesday issued a statement declaring that all service contracts being provided by RLG Communications, Azon Tobacco Cottage Industry Exchange Program and the Better Ghana Management Services, the subsidiary of Just One Group, the parent company of Zoom Lion, had been terminated.
Terminated the contract for certain reasons. What exactly do you intend to achieve with this?
Well, for us, it gives GIDA the opportunity to start from scratch, to start operations afresh, and to start operations this time with a legal framework in place.
The concerns were that some monies have been wrongly paid to these persons. The termination of the contract, does it end everything?
The Attorney General's office has given notice of retrieval of money that were paid up to some of these service providers upfront, and has issued demand notices to them, and most of the companies have complied and are in negotiations with the Attorney General's office to refund these monies to the state. Once there is a legal framework in place, it tells people that you cannot do this and you can do this. Aside that, there needs to be internal reorganization and building the capacity of GIDA to do what I think it should do best, that is to monitor and evaluate some of these service providers who have work to do with GIDA.
AG is working on retrieving monies, as well as perhaps deciding to put those who awarded those contracts on trial if they need be. Is GIDA involved?
Definitely, GIDA is involved. A lot of key staff members who were part of the process before I assumed office have appeared before the Economic and Organized Crimes Unit to testify as to the extent of their involvement.
Right.
It is based on this report that the EOCO will submit a memorandum to the Attorney General's Office for further action.
When are we likely to see this?
Well, there's a time frame with regards to how we can get some of these things done. Currently, there are things that are ongoing. A draft bill is in the process of being drawn up. In fact, it's gone through a number of readings between the Attorney General's Office, the Ministry of Youth and Sport, and my office at GIDA. We have fashioned out basic legal framework that should govern GIDA. This bill will go to a cabinet subcommittee that will also look at it and then make a recommendation to a full cabinet to also look at it. Once that is done, it will be ready to be sent to Parliament. But before that takes place, there will be a stakeholders conference that will elicit responses and comments and views from the members of the public at large. And a lot of these will be incorporated into the final document that makes its way to Parliament for debate and subsequent passage into law.
The Ghana National Education Campaign Coalition has noted with concern government's failure to release funds for feeding and scholarship grants to senior high schools in the 3 northern regions. Recall that all 83 senior high schools and the 3 northern regions of the country have partially reopened school by admitting only final year students. The inability of these schools to admit all students on the reopening dates as a result of the non-payment of 2 terms of feeding subsidies owed them by the government. So this coalition of education has raised concern. We were talking to Bright Apia, who is council chair for the Ghana National Education Campaign. Thank you very much, Bright, for joining us on News Today.
Thank you.
What exactly are your concerns?
Yeah, the concerns that we've raised has to do with the outcome of some of these delays. And one, we touched on the purpose for which the grant was established, and the effect that is going to have on the girl child, the effect that is going to have on retention and quality, the effect that is going to have on those who are going to write their final examinations and all that. So we think that if we don't really handle the issue properly, it's more or less becoming like a tradition where every year we go through the difficulties. We think that it's the time that we look at how best we can arrest the issue and then deal with it appropriately. So on the basis of that, we have made certain recommendations to government to see how best we can use that system to be able to implement the program effectively. And we suggested also that immediately there should be a release of that fund to be able to deal with the issue, as well as ensuring that the schools that are reopened, children are called so that they can enjoy the education that they deserve. And when it comes to the recommendations, we are suggesting to government that when it comes to the 3 northern regions, especially when it comes to the subsidy of the feeding the feeding allowance, we are suggesting to the government that this is something that has been established for the 3 northern regions. So if it's meant for that purpose, then that system needs to be decentralized to that area so that they would have a management system in place to be able to oversee to the management of that resources. And we're also saying that when it comes to the allocation of that fund, we think that it should move away from the normal system of getting funding on an academic calendar, but rather it should be part of the national budget where resources will be allocated for that purpose, so that a committee will be established at that level to deal with matters that concern the subsidy. And if we have had this program for so many years now, and if government is also tired in terms of the implementation of that policy, government should be bold enough to come out and tell us so that we'll be able to know how best to deal with the issue, so that parents and stakeholders would also know what to do. Because this is a special program that was introduced and it's more than 40 years now. And I think that we need to do something to ensure that we run a smooth program so that we can maintain the academic calendar. We can also maintain certain issues that affect the children within the school environment. So that is our core. And this is not only in relation to the feeding, the Northern Feeding Program alone, but when you look at all the social investment program that we have in the education sector, they also experience the same thing in terms of the delays. You know, and there's a question that we need to ask ourselves, that why do government introduce social intervention programs? And I believe that it has a purpose. So if the purpose is to achieve quality education, if the purpose is to achieve retention, then we all have to work towards that. The system must work in a manner that would also promote the same objective that has been outlined for that purpose. So if there's a delay as a result of systemic failure, then of course we need to question the system and then see how we can improve it so that we can still have the kind of results that we want to have. Otherwise, if we still continue to have that delay in the system, then it defeats the purpose for which those programs have been established, and we need to deal with it and deal with it properly.
Kweku Apia is council chair for the Coalition on Education. Let's move on to the courts now. And a prosecution witness has told the Financial Division of the Fast Track High Court on Tuesday that the last 2 installments of monies paid to businessman Alfred Agbeshiwoyome in judgment debt were paid during the tenure of then former Attorney General and Minister of Justice Martin Amidu, Assistant Superintendent of Police ASP Odami Ochri. The investigator in the case said another former Attorney General Betty Mould Idrisu approved the payment of the first installment of 17 million Ghana cedis. ASP Ochri, however, added Martin Amidu only acted based on documents endorsed by Betty Mould Idrisu. ASP Ochri answering questions under cross-examination from counsel for Woyome Safo Boabing said the first installment was paid in obedience to a judgment delivered by Justice Amadou Tanko in 2010, but could not tell under what authority the other payments were made. He informed the court that the 51.2 million Ghana cedis on consent judgment, which was awarded Woyome, was valid. As more ahead, don't go away. Yeah, welcome back to News Today. We would move on with the stories. And the Ghana Pharmaceutical Manufacturing Association has called on government to reconsider the 17.5% VAT its members are now being required to pay. The association, which has over the years been exempted from paying the tax, says the tax will force up prices of their products and affect costs of healthcare delivery for the ordinary Ghanaian.
Contrary to comments by the chairman of Parliament's Finance Committee that pharmaceutical companies will not be affected by the increase in VAT, the pharmaceuticals say they are complying with the directive to pay the 17.5% VAT currently.
Once it's the law, we must be law-abiding. You do not have to like the law to obey it. It's our government, it's brought a law, we are not happy with the law, but we must comply and then negotiate with them. That is our position.
Certain things that they buy locally, like paracetamol, like these diabetic drugs, metformin and those things, the prices are going to go up, definitely.
Executive Secretary of the Pharmaceutical Manufacturers Association of Ghana, Kwabna Santi, has therefore urged government to reconsider its position on imposing the new VAT rate on the pharmaceutical sector, since it plays a critical role in the economy.
The pharmaceutical industry in Ghana serves two purposes, indeed everywhere. It is a public health agency as well as an industry. As a public health agency, it provides medicines. Key of them is quality and affordability to our people. The second point is that it is also an industry and therefore helps create employment for our people. Today, there are people in the streets complaining of lack of jobs and so forth. Job creation can only be solved by manufacturing. And one sector that, in my view, should be developed to solve this problem is a pharmaceutical industry.
The former president of the association, Dr. Michael Ajekumado, expressed fears that the quality of their products might be affected following the increase.
I believe that by imposing this tax on us, we are not going to be competitive. The industry survives on our quality. Now, Nigeria, Sierra Leone, Liberia, they all prefer Ghana-made pharmaceuticals. Almost all industries in this country have collapsed, save the pharmaceutical industry. Talk about the poultry industry, textile industry, furniture industry, they're all gone.
Pharmaceutical manufacturers have always been exempted from paying value-added tax since the tax was introduced in 1996. The recent addition of 2.5% to the existing 15% VAT, according to the government, is to create a level playing field for industry players, including importers. According to the Pharmaceutical Manufacturers Association, even though they are not against the increase in VAT, the jump from 0 to 17.5% is unfair and want it reduced to at least 2.5%. Emmanuel, Joynews, Accra.
Over 1,000 cocoa haulage drivers and their mates embarked on a peaceful demonstration in the early hours of Wednesday at the commodity village near Poa in the western region to drum home their requests for authorities of the cocoa marketing company to address their grievances and that of the loading boys. The loading boys embarked on a strike to get their wages increased from 10 to 50 pesos last week. Meanwhile, information available to Joy News indicates that authorities of the Ghana Cocoa Board, led by the CEO, have agreed to increase the daily wage of 10 pesos per sack to 20 pesos while providing other requests such as portable water, among others. A report by a Western Regional Correspondent, William Benjamin Peters.
The angry and stranded demonstrators, made up of the drivers and their mates, clad in red bands, also carried placards with inscriptions to register their anger amidst the chanting of war songs. The demonstration, even though peaceful due to the heavy security presence, caused some traffic congestion on the main Takrady-Apoa to Agonankwanta stretch and took the intervention of the police to control affairs. The demonstrators, who took to the streets later, headed to the office of the cocoa marketing company at Kejebe near Apoa to present their petition. The secretary to the haulage drivers, Moro Sekunde, who read out the petition, called on government, the media and Cocoa Board and its subsidiaries to quicken their process in order for their trucks to be offloaded.
We are Trailer Drivers Union at Apawine Global Haulage Compound at Apawine, demonstrating against Cocoa Board and it subsidizes on the way they handle us before we are able to offload our cocoa from our trucks. Due to this, we are having problems in the compound that, number one, there is delay in uploading of cocoa beans brought from the hinterland. Two, as a result, we spent more than 1 month.
It took the timely intervention of the Western Regional Police Commander, DCOP Kofi Boachi, to calm tempers at the premises of the cocoa marketing company. The police commander then met with authorities of the cocoa marketing company together with some leadership of the drivers to find a lasting solution to their problems. The chief executive of the Ghana Cocoa Board, later in a telephone conversation with the police commander and the secretary to the drivers, convinced the demonstrators to stop their demonstration and go back to their base at the Commodity Village warehouse, since the authorities have already accepted to address the demands by the offloading boys to increase their daily wage of 10 pesos per sack of cocoa they offload to 20 pesos. They will also be provided with better working environment with potable water, place of convenience, among other several demands. The secretary to the drivers, Moro Sekunde, then led in the handing over of their statement, which was received on behalf of the cocoa marketing company by the area coordinator for warehouse and port operations, Isaac Agbanyega. Isaac Agbanyega, however, refused to comment on the matter. The Western Regional Police Commander, DCOP Kofi Boachi, later in an interview said he believes authorities will abide by their promises made to ensure sanity and pledge to ensure that peace prevails among the three parties concerned.
The agreement is that they are going to increase the cost per load, that is from 10 pesos to 20 pesos. And after that, they are going to provide water and all those amenities that they require to work companies. So the decision now is that the drivers will go back to the global village. Then the laborers, the labor gangs will now start working just within 1 hour. And after the labor gang assemble at the few roundabout, so we are going to call them back to the global village. And the expectation is that within 1 hour, they will start working.
The Public Affairs Manager of the Ghana Cocoa Board, Noah Kwesi Amenya, has debunked reports that about 40,000 tons of Ghanaian cocoa beans have been smuggled to Ivory Coast owing to the fallen cedi. Noah Amenya, however, says the rumor will not drive them to review the producer price of cocoa in the country.
It continues to fall, losing nearly 7% of its value against the dollar, while Ivory Coast euro-pegged CFA franc has gained ground. Currently, a gap of 60 to 70 CFA franc is said to be between the two countries, taking into account inflation and currency fluctuations in Ghana. The situation is said to have made prices of cocoa in Ivory Coast more attractive to Ghanaian farmers and has therefore spurred the smuggling of Ghanaian cocoa beans to the top grower. But the Ghana Cocoa Board says the reports are mere speculations.
That we can have 40,000 metric tons of Ghana's cocoa moving across the border. And whoever had been able to record that should be able to give us the evidence so we can arrest those who are doing that. Otherwise, then it's speculative. In Cocoa Board, we do not have any mechanism at the borders. We don't control the borders. It would be difficult for us to be registering the smuggling. And even if we had seen one case, we would have taken it very serious and apprehended the people. But what we have in place is that for the internal marketing of cocoa, we have regulations, and the regulation is that if a licensed buying company should buy cocoa in Ghana, and send it across the border, that LBC would have its licenses revoked, and the perpetrators would be sent to court because it is criminal. It's an offense against the state.
There have been calls for the review of the producer price of cocoa in Ghana, which is currently pegged at 3,392 cedis per ton, while Ivory Coast has introduced a new minimum price for farmers. Cocoa Board believes the reports are only a ploy to push them to review the cocoa producer prices.
If the cedi had fallen so much that the producer price that we pay to farmers becomes ridiculous, that the money we get from the sales of cocoa, we sell our cocoa forward, so we've already sold the cocoa. So has the cedi fallen so much that the price at which we sold cocoa will be able to make so much reserves that we can now change the producer price and not affect the total revenues, then yes, it will be looked at. But seriously, our research department is looking at that. We work closely with the Bank of Ghana, so they would also advise on what is happening. And we'll be able to change things if we need to change. But for now, no.
The Cocoa Board Public Relations Manager maintained the board will look into the matter, but has in the meantime urged the security agencies at the borders to ensure cocoa beans are not smuggled out of the country.
China has granted licenses to import gold to two foreign banks for the first time as moves to open the world's biggest fiscal bullion markets gather pace. Now, this means that more banks can import gold, thereby increasing the supply of the metal into the country and also easing local prices, which are higher than in most Asian nations. China's gold imports more than doubled last year to over 1,000 tons, ousting India as the biggest buyer. Chinese telecom equipment giant Huawei has said its operating profit rose by more than 40% last year. It expects to make an operating profit of up to 29.4 billion yen, about $4.9 billion or 3 billion pounds, compared with 20 billion yen in 2012. The firm said growth in emerging markets helped offset subdued revenues in economies such as US and Australia, where it has faced security concerns. Huawei's profit was also boosted by the success of its smartphone division and cost-cutting measures. The firm's chief financial officer, Cathy Meng, said the company was likely to see its business grow further in the coming years amid growing demand for its products. The firm is also expected to benefit from China's continuing push to improve the telecom infrastructure across the country. The global recovery is gaining momentum according to new projections by the World Bank, but unlike previous years, the World Bank says growth in 2014 is likely to be driven in large parts by high-income countries. 5 years after the financial crisis, the World Bank says the global economy has reached a turning point, this time led by advanced economies.
For the first time in 5 years, high-income countries are accelerating. They're going to be contributing to global growth in a way that they haven't for some time. That's going to be good for developing countries.
The latest estimates show Europe grew by minus 0.4%, but we expect this to turn positive, gently positive. 1.1% is not huge growth, but given Europe's difficulties over the last 6 years, this is indeed good news. We saw that in South Africa, in Indonesia, in India, where the exchange rate was crashing around. So I feel actually at one level, a lot of the adjustment has already taken place. So when the tapering actually began, as it now has, from $85 billion a month to 75, it's not having that much of an effect because part of the effect has already taken place.
Let's talk about cars now. U.S. car maker General Motors said it will resume dividend payments, capping a remarkable turnaround since its 2009 bailout by the U.S. government. It will also pay a dividend of 30 cents per share, the first since July 2008. GM filed for bankruptcy at the height of the global financial crisis and was rescued after the government pumped in billions of dollars. But the firm has since seen a strong recovery led by a jump in sales in key markets such as the United States and China. On Tuesday, General Motors said it sold 9.71 million vehicles in 2013, an increase of 4% on the year before. Aircraft now, and Japan Airlines has grounded a Boeing 787 Dreamliner aircraft after detecting smoke or gases that may have come from faults with the main battery. The problem was discovered during routine maintenance and is a reminder of the battery faults that grounded all 787s for 3 months last year. The airline said engineers noticed smoke and then warning lights flashed signaling a battery fault. Boeing said it was aware of the issue and is working with Japan Airlines. The worldwide fleet of 50 Dreamliners was grounded for more than 3 months last year after battery problems sparked a fire in a parked plane and forced the emergency landing of another. We'll do some sports news after this. Yeah, welcome to the sports segment of News Today. And the Ghanaian star has started physical training and may return to full action in the next few weeks. Ghana midfielder Andre Ayew trained with Olympique Marseille for the first time since November after his knee injury in the Egypt-Ghana game in Cairo. Ghana can reveal that the Marseille talisman had a session on the field under physical trainer Frederic Faure, and it will not take long for him to start ball kicking. The 24-year-old has been Marseille's best player by far this season. Accra Hearts of Oak has criticized the decision of the Ghana Football Association Status Committee to award a heavy compensation to its former coach David Duncan following his sacking in November 2013. The Status Committee ruled the Hearts must pay a sum of 86,500 Ghana cedis to Duncan for the remainder of his contract with the club. The contract was to run out later this year. David Duncan was dismissed as the team's head coach last year. The club was subsequently dragged to the GFA Status Committee by Duncan for redress. In the CHAN tournament taking place in South Africa, DR Congo beats Mauritania 1-0, while Gabon and Burundi played a goalless draw game. Let's watch some highlights.
DRC, the first to win the event back in 2009, struggled against their West African opponents, making their debut in the tournament. Chances on target were few and far between, but Mauritania were the more threatening of the two. In the 12th minute, a terrible mix-up between the goalkeeper and the defender almost gave El Moussa the chance to smash home the opener, his thunderous drive just whistling over the crossbar. It would again be Mauritania to enjoy the better of the chances, but little troubled the goalkeeper as he saw another shot fly over his head. Their best chance again fell to Eli Sheikh. He beat the keeper, but not the last man who was on hand to clear for the sides to go into the break goalless. It would be the Leopards to take the lead early on in the second half. Eddie Momo coolly slotting home a penalty after Firmin Mubele was brought down. Mauritania almost grabbed the equaliser as a hopeful free kick smashed against the crossbar, but matters would only get worse for the side. Moussa Baka sent off for a reckless challenge, reducing his side to 10 men. DRC would settle for the 1-0 victory in the end to open their campaign with 3 points.
Gabon and Burundi, the last two teams of the 16 participating nations in the African Nations Championships, locked horns in the final Group D match at the Peter Mokaba Stadium. Frank Obame had the first chance at goal for Gabon in the 21st minute, but he only managed to launch his effort over the net. Skipper Daniel Cousin emulated his teammate when he also sent his shot well wide of goals from a set piece. Obame had a great chance to give Gabon the lead in the 32nd minute when a cross from the corner found the keeper wanting, and the forward had only the defenders on the line to beat, but saw his header blocked. The best chance of the half fell for Cousin when he did everything right in setting up the shot in the box, but struggled to place the ball in the back of the net. Celestine Habonimana followed in Gabon's footsteps with a wayward efforts as he sent his set piece narrowly wide of goals with a left-footed strike. Owen Obama squandered Gabon's best chance of finding the elusive goal late in the match when he sent his header over the post, despite the keeper and defenders being well off their line. Mosi Musa also botched a great chance of finding the goal for Burundi when he opted to head the ball into the ground and watched as it flew over the net. Just when the crowd thought they'd finally see a goal, the linesman ruled Samson Bingui's goal as offside, thus bringing the match to an end at a stalemate.
You're welcome back to News Today. As news of the controversial Nigerian law banning same-sex marriages continues to make headlines worldwide, renowned prophet T.B. Joshua has spoken out on the contentious issue through a new initiative on his ministry's official Facebook page, in which the cleric responds to people's questions in an interactive session. He addressed the much debated question on same-sex marriage: judge not so that you will not be judged. Joshua began citing Matthew 7:1 for scriptural backing. We should talk to people to be saved and not to die. I mean, we should talk salvation, not condemnation. The Bible is my standard, he continued in the post to almost 900,000 fans. Let's go to South Sudan now. And United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon has expressed alarm at the rising number of people being killed or forced from their homes by the fighting in South Sudan. The UN chief has also condemned both government troops and rebels for taking vehicles and food stocks from humanitarian groups. The number of people displaced by a month of fighting has reached nearly 500,000. Rebels announced on Tuesday that they had captured Malakal, the capital of Upper Nile State. Welcome back to News Today. One of Ghana's foremost highlight musicians, Abrantia Amachidede, has added his voice to calls to end piracy of creative works. Abrantia, whose works have transcended the borders of the country, says his company will soon deal drastically with all those involved in the illegal distribution of his music.
Mention the name Amachidede anywhere and you're likely to get people mention a tall list of his music, including Iron Boy. But in spite of the successes he has chalked over the years, the highlife icon is unhappy his popularity has thrived on the wings of pirates. He disclosed that for the past years, his works has been sold on the local and international markets and online without his approval. The ever-young high-life musician described pirates as thieves and nation wreckers who must be stopped and called for an effective and rapid legal system to deal with them. But as we wait for the fight against piracy to intensify, Abrantia says he will use all available means to uproot piracy and destroy their criminal operations.
Right, so that's it for showbiz and that's it for the hour. So let's take a look at our headlines again. Over 1,000 cocoa haulage drivers and their mates protest at the commodity village near Poa in the western region to drum home their request for authorities of the cocoa marketing company to address the grievances of the loading boys. New World Bank projections show a global recovery is gaining momentum, and the bank says the growth in 2014 is likely to be driven in large parts by high-income countries. United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon expresses alarm at the rising number of people being killed or forced from their homes by the fighting in South Sudan. There's more news on myjoyonline.com. Thank you very much for staying through. My name is Kemini Nyamani Amano, and goodbye.